Howdy folks, Chris LaRose here of LaRose Hat Co., and today I'd like to talk to you about brims, or as some people call them, visors. So the brims, or the visors, are this piece right here, the part that shades your eyes and that you grab a hold of to put the hat on or take it off. And there are two major kinds of visors. You can have a soft brim, which is what I make. I think 99% of the hats I make are soft brims. And you can have a hard brim. So the hard brim is rigid and it uses an insert like this. So historically, when people made rigid brims, they were made out of cardboard. They'd use a cardboard insert like this, and they'd sew a cloth pocket, put the brim's insert in there, close it up, and put it on the hat. In the old days, they were cardboard, and that presented a lot of issues. Mainly, whenever the hat got wet, the cardboard would swell and tear inside of the brim fabric, and it would leave lumps or areas that completely didn't even have any insert left in it. And it would really drastically reduce the lifespan of your hat. So they did this for a long time. They used cardboard from the 40s all the way up to, I'd say, about 1990, and then they started switching to these things, the plastic brim inserts. These were better. You don't have to worry about washing them, but I still view these as inferior to a good old-fashioned cloth brim, mainly because when you wear the hat a lot, the plastic brim eventually wears a hole through the edge of the fabric on your brim, and then you have this plastic piece shining through, just making the hat look worn out. And the plastic also eventually breaks too. If you bend your hat a lot, the plastic's going to break, and then you're going to have a two-piece brim or worse, you know. So they don't last a terribly long time. You might be able to get a couple years out of one, which is why I think cloth brims are a million times better. I can make a cloth brim outlast a rigid brim by 10 times, maybe even more. And so how I make these is I use a layer of really sturdy, thick canvas, and I do 4 layers. I flip it right side out again, and I iron the heck out of it, and I do 9 or so rows of stitching, which gives it some rigidity so it doesn't bend as easy. And these I really like. They feel substantial. You can wash them as many times as you want, and there's nothing inside of them that's going to break or clump up. It's always going to feel the same thickness everywhere. So it's nice and uniform, and it looks much higher quality for longer. If you have a plastic insert, it'll look really nice for a while, and then if it breaks, you know, 6 months, a year later, or whatever, it doesn't look so good. But this one, you can wash over and over again, and 5-6 years later, you still have a hat that looks very good. And it'll also get character to it. You know, a lot of folks call it character or patina, where something that's made well, as it gets broken in and fades, it keeps looking good, as opposed to something that is made poorly will break down. So it breaks in as opposed to breaking down. One of the other reasons why I like soft brims as opposed to these rigid brims, this is one that I made with one of these inserts just to see what it was like, is that if you're working with hot stuff, like if you're working on a steam engine, if you're a welder, or, you know, grinding a piece of metal and you need to pick it up for a second and move it over, with a soft brim like this, you kind of have a hot pad wherever you go. You know, you can grab things with this. Like if, for example, I were working on a scissors-shaped piece of metal grinding and it got really hot, well, I can pick it up with the brim and move it over, and I'm not going to burn my hand. So that's what I think is really cool about this. The other thing is, a lot of machinists that I make hats for really love the soft brim, because when they're out and about working, they have the brim that shields their eyes, but if they're working on something close, they can fold the hat brim up and it'll stay up like that, so it stays out of their eyes, and they can flip it back down whenever they need to. You can't do that with these ones. You can kind of bend them to have a partially folded up shape, but eventually that's going to break, and eventually the fabric's going to wear through, and it's just going to not feel like something that's going to outlast you, and your kids will fight over it when you're gone. Whereas something like this feels sturdy and feels like it's going to last a really long time. So I hope I didn't bore you too much. I just wanted to show people the difference between rigid brim inserts or soft brims, and explain why soft brims will outlast a rigid brim all day long, every day, and can be repaired much easier than these. So thank you folks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach me. I'd be happy to help the best I can. And if you'd like to order a hat, please check out my website. I do all the hats custom made to measure with your choice of fabric and thread color. So you can choose your fabric combinations and what color thread you'd like. So if you wanted a hat like this and you wanted orange stitching, I could do orange stitching. Or if you wanted something like green, I could do green for you. I could do pretty much anything you want, or at least I'd be happy to try it. So thank you folks for watching, and I will see you around. Take care.